This is Freedom Speaks with moderator Carrie Brock.
And hello again. The Constitution makes no bones about it. The government must have nothing to do with our religious beliefs. And that works just fine for those whose worship is considered mainstream. But others believe the government does not respect their right to worship as they choose.
This is the area that we would have our rituals.
Roger Coleman and his wife Jackie Zaleski used to hold religious worship services in their backyard.
The temple is the canopy of trees. To us, a temple can never be in a building.
But the city of Palm Bay, Florida put a stop to that.
They're wasting all this money and time and effort to tell us not to pray instead of going out and taking care of some really serious problems that they have.
So we have a maypole.
After neighbors' complaints of chanting and drums, Zaleski and Coleman were fined under a residential zoning law that says homes can't be used as churches. The neighbor's attorney speaks for them.
There's loud noise. There's too many people. They're running a church, wearing it on their sleeve in a neighborhood that says, hey, wait a minute, this is for homes. You want to run a church? Go to the place that we set up for a church.
We have never played past 11 o'clock at night.
Coleman and Zaleski believe the problem wasn't noise, but the nature of their religion.
Lady, cast this blade with light. Cast this boundary between the world mundane and the world spiritual.
Zaleski, Coleman, and the others are all members of the Church of Iron Oak, and they gather this night to practice the pagan religion of Wicca.
Lord Gob, we ask you to come to the edge of our circle.
Because they didn't want Freedom Speaks to shoot their actual full moon ceremony, they recreated parts of it for our camera.
We all come from the goddess, and to her we shall return.
Wicca is an earth-centered religion that has to do with paying attention to what is going on around you and inside of you. It's a part of a religion that was based in the concept of the wise woman or the healing woman of the village.
The athame is to the chalice, as the male is to the female.
Perhaps you see this as witchcraft. The Wiccans call this part of their ceremony a prayer. They also use magic and spells, but they resent the term witch.
Witch hysteria.
The neighbor used the word witch. She used the word back in February. She called up and said, hey, there's a church of witches, and she gave our address. The city just came running right out.
The Bible says they're followers of Satan.
Lonnie Salberg says his job as a Christian is to expose the Wiccans.
Just simply hard evidence that there is a link between abortion and witchcraft, and at that point people's compassion and tolerance of them seems to go downhill.
We revere life, so the notion of taking life makes absolutely no sense.
The gates to the north are closed. Somebody be.
The Wiccans now pray for strength. They have taken the city to court in the hopes of continuing their rituals outside.
Equal treatment. We're not asking for anything more than any other religion would be allowed to have. If the Baptists can have worship in their yards, why cannot a Wiccan?
Yeah. Why are you posting Wiccans? I've read the article.
Well, I'm not, when you say opposed to the Wiccans, I don't know if we're really opposed to Wiccans just per se, just opposed to them as a class, but we're opposed to what they do. And promoting abortion is mainly the main reason I oppose them. Like I said in my facts listen to you, I really don't care if they bang their drums and chant the trees until 2 in the morning. If I was their next door neighbor, I certainly would, but I'm not, and I don't care about that. But when they come out here and they actively engage in supporting abortion rights, spiritually cloaking the clinic, in their satanic prayers and giving money to them, to the abortion industry, we got a problem there at that point.
You say they're connected to the abortion industry because they promote child sacrifice. Explain that.
Well, in their doctrines or whatever you want to call it, they do promote bloodletting, sacrifice of animals and possibly children. We don't have any hard evidence that they've ever actually, used blood or fetuses from an abortion in their sacrificial ceremonies, but they do promote it in their writings and their books and stuff, and that's what we have a lot of evidence of there.
How do you draw this connection? Obviously, you did some kind of study or report, and how do you know the Wiccans are even tied to the, or some Wiccans are tied to the abortion?
It's more of I'm never really quite sure if it's the Wiccans are tied to the abortion industry or if it's the abortion industry that's tied to the witches. They seem to go pretty hand in hand. I was involved in pro-life activities for a while, and I and a couple other people started noticing this, link. We'd see employees' cars with bumper stickers promoting witchcraft. There was one here 30 minutes before you got here, in fact. And we started thinking, well, why? What's this big? Why is there such? Percentage-wise, witches are considerably a small number of the population, but yet, it seems like half the employees that work at this place are involved in the witchcraft movement in some way. And so we just started looking around and visiting some things and reading stuff. And the more you read and the more you come across, the more it's like they emphatically support it, and some go as far as to raise money for the clinic, recruit other witches to come out and be what we call basically clinic escorts and stuff like that. That they put up signs to shield women having abortions from our pro-life style counselors who are trying to offer them literature that will tell them the truth about abortion, what it does to their body, and all that kind of stuff. And so they have witches basically guiding women into the clinic to get abortions. And I thought, it was news to me when I first happened, but that was 2 or 3 years ago. And we've been saying it over time and time again, and they continue to deny it on one hand, but it's secretly they still promote it, very all the time.
I have to ask you this because obviously you're coming at it from a different background of belief, and they would say, look, why are you you're Christians, why are you picking on us? I mean, is this do they have the rights to worship like everyone else, or what is it that you think they do that crosses the line? I mean, you've done research, have written a report. What is it that they do?
Well, worship's kind of a tricky thing. I mean, you stand in church and you sing a song.
Do they believe in Satan, first of all? I mean, answer that for me. I mean, is that where their beliefs are
Sure they do. They say they don't, but sure they do. And they're going to say, well, no, we don't. We don't believe in Satan because he's a Christian entity that Christians have invented, and we're not Christians, so we can't believe in him. But we call by any of their name, read the Bible says they're followers of Satan. And so that's everyone that's not a Christian. That doesn't necessarily make them more evil or more insidious than any other non-Christian, but it does place them in a state where then they're actively promoting non-Christian values and corrupting society. Then naturally they're going to come under fire in a sense because of that.
And is that a concern? I mean, why did you guys start to follow them in the first place? You said you just noticed this connection between the abortion clinic here and Wiccans who were involved with it, or what?
Well, we're interested in finding out at any time we're going to always be interested in finding out why a clinic continues to thrive and stay in business when they don't have any business. And during the low times of the clinic, when they have trouble getting abortion-bound women to come in, there's certain funds and certain monies that keep them afloat during those low times, and we're certainly going to be interested in finding out where those are coming from. And the witches is certainly one of the strongholds of that money and that support.
I have to ask you this again because let me just throw a question at you. We have the First Amendment in this country. It's freedom of religion. Any group has a right to practice their religion without state interference. Do you think that Wiccans have a right like anyone else to practice their religion, or do you even not like me using that term? Religion?
No, that's okay. I mean, everyone, sure they have a right to practice their religion, but there's walls around that. Charles Manson found that out. His religion was not so free that he could practice it and kill people in the practice of his religion. There's going to be certain walls and rules, and that's what we feel strongly, that abortion is the killing of another human being. And they're supporting that as part of their religion. So that's why we as Christians stand against that just as much as we stand against the abortionist who performs the procedure and the employees who work there, so on and so forth.
Why should the government stop them from practicing their religion?
I think it's up to the church to stop them. I don't think the government could, really. Short of becoming a tyrannical state, and it would probably stop all of us from practicing all our own personal beliefs and things like that. But I think it is up to the Church of Jesus Christ to stop them.
What does the public need to know about the Wiccans, or the witches, as you call them?
I think they need to know that they're not white witches, and they're not just harm none. These clauses they throw out there. I'm sure you've heard it. You'll hear some more tomorrow when you talk to Jack Zaleski, but she'll sit there and try to say basically she's this, white purist goddess, and she's just, in tune with nature, and a lot of fun-loving stuff that everyone will go, hey, what's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that. But she won't even, I'm not even sure she'll publicly call herself a witch. And she calls herself a Wiccan, because that sounds real, politically correct, I guess. And she doesn't want the bad connotations that come with the word witch and the black hat and the, all that kind of long green nose. But, that's not the issue. The issue is, what are they doing? Not what kind of claim are they holding to, or what books they read. What do you actively participate in on your day-to-day lifestyle?
And your biggest problem with what they're doing is what?
They're involved, their promotion of abortion. Their attacks against the church, their promotion of abortion. I think it's interesting that, that this has happened to them with the neighbors, but I frankly think they brought it on themselves. They're just trying to get attention for their cause. They're, 10, 12 people that attend that little coven, and I don't know if I could get the kind of press that they wanted, that they've gotten the past year or so with this lawsuit against the city of Palm Bay. We're 12 people.
Let me ask you this. They would say that, and I can just throw this question at you, this is about hysteria. This is about hysteria against witches. This is about people's fears. Are you afraid? I mean, as a Christian, are you afraid of them? Oh, certainly not. It's not about hysteria either. It's not about... it's about fear of what you don't know. It's about fear of something unconventional.
Well, I put it the other way around. They're afraid that because there's a small group of individuals, and we're trying to make that larger, who do know. And they don't want us to let other people know. And I put that the other way around, that they're afraid that more and more people will come to find out that there is hard, evidence. It's not theory, it's not conjecture, it's just simply hard evidence that there is a link between abortion and witchcraft. And at that point, people's compassion and tolerance of them seems to go downhill, and they don't want that to happen, because obviously they want to be able to do some of the things they want to do. And this isn't about banging drums and having campfires late at night. It's about what they do after they're finished banging the drums and having the campfires the next day. What do these people go out back and do? And just as much as if the abortion clinic employees got together for a meeting, I would find that of high interest of what they're promoting and what they're doing, because innocent babies are being killed because of what they do for profit. They're just doing it for money. There's no other reason. And they're abusing women and killing babies for money. That's sick. That's just sick.
Excuse me, let me change that.
You said you have hard evidence, and I've read the article. What is, the hardest evidence that you have that what you say is in fact true?
I think there's no single issue. There's no single, what they call smoking gun. But like a lot of evidence, it's a myriad of things that when you put them together, you're like, well, there's obviously a link. How strong the link is, and like I say, whether the witches control the abortion industry or vice versa, I can't say for sure. But when you see 3 or 4 of the employees, and you have to understand, they only have a staff of 8 or 9 employees across the street. 3 or 4 of them having bumper stickers saying the goddess is alive, magic is afoot, I worship the goddess, things like that. That's to me a link. When you have one of the ex-clinic directors left the clinic and went on to found the Wiccan Cooperative Religious whatever of Florida, over in Orlando, that to me is a link. When you have the clinic director saying, I practice the holy ritual of child sacrifice publicly to us. Now, obviously, I don't know if it's on videotape someplace, but right to our faces, that to me is a link.
Explain that to me, though, that last statement that was made. What do you interpret that to mean? What do you...
Well, she prefaced it by saying, you practice your religion and I'll practice mine.
And she is a witch? How do you know that?
Well, I don't know if she's a witch. She's the owner of the clinic, Patricia Baird-Wendell. She's owned it since 1976 or something like that. Mm-hmm. And in an outrage one day, she turned to a bunch of us and said, you all practice your religion and I'll practice mine. And someone followed up and said, well, what's your religion? And she said, I practice the holy ritual of child sacrifice. Well, obviously that's, you can interpret that 1,000 ways, but I think she knew, and she knew we would know what she meant by that, and we did.
Which is what?
Which is that she obtains, religious cleansing or whatever she wants to call it by killing babies. That's her thing. That's her religion.
And this is a philosophy.
She doesn't go to a church.
This is the philosophy of the Wiccans, though. How do you know again that this is philosophy of Wiccan?
This is a book that one of the clinic owners, one of the clinic employees ordered. Carol Levine, she still works there. And this is a book written about pagan and Wiccan sacrifices of abortion. And here's the order where she ordered. There's her, in fact, there's the clinic address right on it, 1564 Dixie Way. And, you know, they'll sit there and say, well, I was ordering because I was curious. Someone sent it to me. I didn't, you know. It's like, why don't you just come out and say it? Why don't you come out and say, you know, if I said to you, like I put it in the phone, if I said to you, I'm a Christian, Tony, you know, what kind of respect would you have for me or my religion? You think, well, he must be, what is he doing wrong or something? But that's exactly what they do. They secretly go, okay, we support abortion, we're helping the clinic. And then you go, are you helping the clinic or are you supporting abortion? Oh, no. What's the matter? Are you ashamed of the pro-choice cause? Are you ashamed of abortion? Well, sure they are.
I guess my question becomes then, how do you know for a fact that Wiccans promote the idea or the notion of child and animal sacrifice and torture and all these things? I mean, how do you know that?
Well, I read a book. I mean, how else would I know? I mean, here's a book that they put out. We can put it out. I mean, it's not a Christian book. It's a book by witches promoting abortion.
What does it say? I mean, you don't have to...
You know, abortion always has been and continues to be another way of choosing death over life, you know. Everyone has a right to his own moral choices when that means that women and the integrity of the social fabric and the planet itself have to bear the consequences of unwanted children, then we all need to be heard, you know. And they go on and they just, throughout the entire book, promote abortion. And yet, you'll get them and they'll say, we don't do that. We don't promote child sacrifice. But what's wrong with then they'll go on to defend abortion. So in essence, they contradict themselves. They go, okay, you don't promote it, but you just defend the entire abortion. Oh, it's legal and all this kind of stuff. It's like, well, if you're a witch, I'd like to meet a pro-life witch. I haven't met one yet.
So that's your biggest problem then? You tell me. I don't know.
Well, sure.
Spell it for me.
That is my biggest problem.
What is your biggest problem?
That they promote, actively engage.
Who does it? Can you just phrase it for me?
Names?
Yeah, no. I mean, yeah, the Wiccans. I mean, is this Wiccans in your mind? I mean, just spell it for me.
Oh, they're not in my mind. Wiccans do promote abortion. They do it not actively, like we are Wiccans. We promote abortion. They go and tell you, you know, here's why you should support abortion. They do it in their workplaces. They do it secretly. They do it in their coven meetings. They give money. You know, they do it kind of like stealth-wise. They sneakily support abortion, and then that's why they don't like us because we expose them.
And in your mind, that is in fact promoting child sacrifice?
Well, abortion is child sacrifice. That's there's no doubt about that. I mean, that's a whole other issue, obviously, perhaps in some people's minds, but it is child sacrifice. You're sacrificing a child on the wants and whims of a woman. You know, because she doesn't have enough money, sacrifice the child. Because she wants to go to college and finish her education, sacrifice the child. The child is sacrificed over the wants and desires of the woman. Because her husband or boyfriend left her, sacrifice the child. And you know, that's what we try to do out here. We say, don't sacrifice the child. We'll help you overcome those obstacles, but don't sacrifice the child over your own wants and whims. Don't damn yourself to hell over this issue. You know, we can help you with that.
I'm going to ask you this question because they say that religion is older than Christianity, okay? It's based on pagan rituals which honor the earth mother as they call it. That's all they're about. What is wrong with that?
Well, first of all, it's not older than Christianity because Christ created the earth and created them and created me, created you, and everything, you know, out in this backyard. And what they're saying is their religion predates the birth of Christ on earth, Jesus Christ. And in that regard, they're true, but Jesus was around long before they thought of their ideas about worshiping trees.
They come into the public arena and they begin to make political statements, like what laws ought to be passed, should Christians be able to protest in front of an abortion clinic, should abortion be legal. When they come into the public arena, then I have something to say about it, because I have a right to come into the public arena too. That's what the First Amendment is all about. And also, as a Christian, I have freedom of religion. Part of my religion is preaching the gospel. And part of that is that people can only come to God through Jesus Christ and not through a nature God. And I have a right to state that, to publish that, to do interviews interviews on television, radio, newspaper, and speak those things. I don't consider that to be persecution of witches. I just consider it to be my own freedom of expression.
Okay. At what point should people be allowed to have their religious expressions and do what they want to without government interference? And when do you think the government should step in?
The government should not step in to anyone's private home and tell them what they can believe, what they can practice in their own home. Now that doesn't mean that people in the community can't step out and say that or try to influence ordinances in the town that would keep people from having private meetings in their home, that type of thing. Once someone's religious practice begins to interfere with public life, then the government has once a person's religion begins to influence public life, then the government has every right to come in and make ordinances, laws, or whatever to restrict that.
Okay, well, you can answer this question based on religious beliefs or not, but there are a lot of, America's a country where we have all different kinds of religions, non-traditional religions, Hindus, Buddhists, whatever. As a Christian, would you be opposed to that, or to what extent, again, I'm talking about freedom of religion, people have their right to worship, or where would you draw the line, where do you step in?
I think that America was founded mainly by religious people. These people were mainly Protestant Christians, some Roman Catholics. Obviously there were witches, in Salem and places like that. There were some Jews and maybe some Muslims too. I think that our Constitution is based on an ethic of right and wrong, of freedom within the parameters of the philosophy of that day. So that if you are a Christian, a Jew, a Muslim, a Hindu, and you obey the 10 Commandments, let's say, you don't kill, you don't murder, you don't steal, then you have every right to practice your religion. Once your religion starts to promote something that goes outside of the norms and the mores of the society that was founded, then the government has every right to step in and say this is wrong.
What goes outside the norms and mores? I mean, in terms of religious practice?
I would say use of drugs goes outside of the norms of the public. I don't think that people should be able to use drugs as a part of religious service. I think that excessive noise coming from your backyard, I think that the government has every right to restrict those. Public nudity would be another one. We have naturists. I'm not going to say whether or not witches worship naked. Some of them I've heard do. But that would be something that the government could restrict. I can't go out in my backyard and do certain things that are going to offend my neighbors.
But I guess your bottom line thought on all this is America was founded, because I'm using the words, it was a Christian country. And so, I mean, does that give Christianity, you think, a different status? I mean, if you believe it does, then that's how it was founded.
Certainly the people who wrote our Declaration of Independence and our Constitution had a Christian philosophy. Not all of them were Christians or attended a church, but that the laws and the rights that we enjoy today came from a discussion since the time of the Protestant Reformation, really going all the way back to the time of the Bible, on God-given rights, the idea of rights given by our Creator. And those words are in our founding documents. So yes, I do believe that Christianity has a special status in our country. Because it was, first of all, we owe our existence to Christian people who came here, and they were the ones who developed the philosophy of religious tolerance, of freedom of speech, of the government not being able to establish a particular religion. It doesn't mean that our government is separated from God, however, from God's law. During a 1988 Democratic campaign, the Republicans made an issue over her being the official witch of Massachusetts. I guess Governor Dukakis made her that. And they kind of played on the beliefs of Christians that the governor of a state ought not to make a Wiccan priestess the official witch, and then also say that Christians don't have the right to pray in schools. It's kind of a contradiction there. This is an issue of the Champion, it's a newspaper that I edited, having to do with the Aware Women Abortion Clinic. And basically what this article says is that there are 3 employees of the Aware Women Clinic that we know of specifically that have some ties to different Wiccan organizations. Now, this article that I did, it spurred all kinds of, where's the other? There was a big article in the Orlando Sentinel, and what happened was that we got honorable mention about our newspaper in there. And so now 2 years after the fact, we have national media, radio programs, and things like that calling us saying, well, why are you so against witches? And the reason why I got interested in it was because of this book right here, called Witchcraft, called The Sacrament of Abortion. This was written by a witch in France who says that this little book presents abortion as a sacrifice to Artemis, who refuses to give life if the life is not pure. So we have, literature written by witches who say that yes, in fact, we do believe that abortion can be seen as some type of part of our ritual. Now, let me say this though, most witches that I talk to don't believe that. But certainly, the ones that are in this town that we've come in contact with that work at the abortion clinic have some inclination of this. Whether or not they hold to it strongly, I have no way of knowing that. You have to ask them. But it seems to be that there's a lot of activism and a lot of political debate being spurred by witches over the abortion issue. Normally, I would not be really that concerned about what someone did, 15, 20 miles away from my house. But when they start to send people out here across the street from the house where I live, then I get involved in the debate.
What do you have?
Wasn't there a book that you show this as well?
Yeah, the book you showed us during the
Open Circle.
Yeah, Open Circle.
Yeah.
This is
a
PBS
thing
group.
they print out in whatever month that is. Your guess is as good as mine. In both 1993. And this is like one of their little pamphlets. They put out their stuff, herbs and their spells. Here's an article about black magic, which is very telling if you read it. And of course, local clinic under attack by Dayhood. And here they go, and it's just right in here, They tell you right exactly, there's a women's clinic in Melbourne called Women's Center for Choice, blah, blah, blah. And they basically sit there and tell them they need to cover up the spiritual spells and all sorts of stuff.
And you see that promoting again in the
Yeah, right here. Finally, many individuals and groups have been helping to magic protect the building and property, especially at night when most of the vandalism occurs, which is untrue. This clinic has not been vandalized. This has been done by magical and psychic shielding being put on and around the property. It is being done.
You referred to this book earlier. I want you to also hold this one in your hand just to catch it.
This thing here?
You don't identify them as witches? You have to explain it to people.
Well, certainly if I put a bumper sticker on my car like I do have on my car, let's say, there's 4,400 abortions performed every day in this country. I have a sticker on my car that says something like that. Obviously, you could pretty much assume I'm pro-life. I mean, you wouldn't be too far stretched to assume that.
So in Goddess We Trust is a reference?
Well, the Goddess is the Wiccan movement. It's all one and the same. They'll probably at least admit to that much. Here's the Wiccan Religious, what did I tell you earlier? Wiccan Religious Cooperative of Florida Incorporated. There's their corporate records. Rebecca Morris, Veronica Jordan, they're clinic employees. No longer anymore, they've quit. They were at the time they were in this organization, and then they quit shortly thereafter.
What does that book mean right there?
Well, just like Jay said earlier, it's the book that promotes abortion through witchcraft, spiritual exercises, Wiccan, witchcraft, goddess, whatever you want to call it. It's pretty much all synonymous. I mean, if you're a witch, I'm sure it's a lot of little inner movements and stuff, but pretty much it's all synonymous from an outside point of view.
And also, as a Christian, I have freedom of religion. Part of my religion is preaching the gospel. And part of that is that people can only come to God through Jesus Christ and not through a nature god.